welcome to part number 6 of the Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse playthrough. Now in this part, we are finally going to enter Dracula's castle, but before that, we have to go through the castle courtyard. Now this is the final alternate path level before we get to the final required levels that no matter what pathway you take, you have to go to those levels. The final 3 levels, 8, 9, and 10, everybody will go to. It doesn't matter what path you take, what partner you take, you will always end up in the final 3 levels. And I absolutely love the music piece for this level. I forgot the name of it, but it's really cool. It's one of my favorite tracks in the game, along with the intro level theme, and the one we are going to be seeing in the next 2 levels. Those ones are pretty good as well. But I have something I wanted to talk about before we get into Dracula's castle. Now, if you remember in the Castlevania 2 playthrough, after it was completed, I posted a no-damage boss rush. And, I will not be doing the same thing for this game, for 2 reasons. Number 1, this game is very difficult to beat all of the bosses without taking damage. And not only that, getting to the bosses with a full health bar is also nearly impossible sometimes, especially if I want to go there with a preferred sub-weapon, like if I want to take the holy water with me. I mean, I could easily get to most of the bosses with a full life bar, but I wouldn't have any good sub-weapons. I'd have just the whip or maybe a knife. It depends on what the checkpoint gave me. So it's very difficult to do that with pretty much all of the bosses. And there's also a ton of bosses in this game, so it would take me a long time to do that. And I have started to do it, and I got a couple bosses done, but it won't be done for a long time. I promise I will eventually do it. I promise you that. But for the time being, the Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse no damage boss rush will be delayed until further notice. It's gonna take me a long time. I just don't have time to do it right now. This game is really hard to do it, and I'll do it eventually, I promise you, but just not right now. I hope you can understand. And the second reason being, I've been working on some other boss rushes. You may or may not have saw the Mega Man X no damage boss rush, and that had sound effects in it, and I had to put in every single sound effect, which took over 2 months to do. And I'm working on an X2 version of it, and it's gonna take me just as long. It depends on a few factors. I'm actually working with someone on this boss rush. Someone is actually going to get all of the sound effects for me. I hope anyway. That he says he can do it, so I'm gonna trust him, but that's gonna take a while. I mean, he's gotta get the sound effects, then once he gives them to me, I gotta put them in, so I will eventually get back to work on this boss rush, but it just won't be here for a while, so I hope you all understand. Anyways, here is the boss of the courtyard level. It is the same boss that was featured in the last level we went to, that terrible, boring snooze fest of a level. Just a typical 3-coffin boss. The first coffin has the mummies, the second coffin has the guy with the hammer, or at least I think it's a hammer. And the third boss is the devil guy, so just take them on the same way you would have fought them before. And with the hammer guy, this time you actually have an extra platform, so it's really easy to just drop down, whip him once, and then jump back up on the platform to safety. I don't know why they decided to put that platform there for this boss fight, but, you know, I'm not going to complain about it. And the holy water absolutely destroys bosses. Like I said before, just look at this. The boss is already dead. The holy water is by far the best sub-weapon. You cannot argue that fact. You cannot. There is no argument for any other sub-weapon. The holy water is just overall the best sub-weapon. Now, for individual bosses, some of the other sub-weapons may be a better choice, but overall, it's not even a contest. The holy water wins every single time. Now, what's this? Now, this music sounds familiar. And this level also looks familiar, too. Huh. What could this be? You know, I just can't think of it. Well, what is this? I don't know. Just kidding. This whole level and the music that accompanies it is sort of a remake of the very first level of Castlevania 1. If you can't tell already, the music is a remix of Vampire Killer, the first song from the first level of Castlevania 1. And the stage also looks very familiar. If you compare this game to the first screen of Castlevania 1, you can tell that they're very similar, and this is just a nice little nod to Castlevania 1, and this happens to be one of my favorite levels in the game, mostly for nostalgic reasons, obviously, because, you know, I love Castlevania 1, it's such a great game, and I like this sort of a remake of a level. I mean, it's definitely different. There are, later on we'll be seeing some collapsing platforms and things like that, but it's just, I don't know, it's a nice remake of a level, and I personally, I wish that more games would do this. You know, every so often, make sort of a remake level of an earlier game. Now, this is not an excuse for any Sonic game to use Green Hill Zone again. That's not, you can't do that, Sega. No more Green Hill Zone clones, I'm tired of them. But, you know, every so often, not every game, Sega, every so often, I think game companies should have a nice little nod to an earlier game in the series. I don't know, I think it's really cool. You know, it gives me sort of like that nostalgic feeling that, you know, that's pretty much what I love about some of these older video games. You know, some of the nostalgia, and, you know, some of them hold up today. But, you know, some games that I really liked in my childhood, I hate them today. I think they're terrible. You know, and some of them, I don't know how I liked them as a kid, so, you know, sometimes nostalgia it fools you. Other times, it makes your experience with the game even better. I'm gonna play some of those bad games from my childhood at some point. I gotta get back into playing bad games because the last time I did a really bad game, it went over really well. I got a lot of positive feedback, and I guess people like to hear me complain and talk about bad games. You know, okay, fine, but I don't mind doing it, but I don't want to be one of those people that just plays bad games. I want to play both good and bad games, you know? It's just, I don't want to be a bitter gamer. I want to be a happier gamer, you know? I don't want to be angry, that's all I'm saying. Anyways, here is Death, returning from Castlevania 1 and 2. Now, he is much easier than he was in Castlevania 1, even if you don't abuse the holy water like I am right now. For the first form, it's pretty much just like Castlevania 1. You just avoid the sickles and just hit him with your whip. It's pretty simple. It's definitely easier to avoid his attacks than in the first game. In the second form, he turns into a giant skull and he just moves around the room. He's actually pretty easy to avoid, but sometimes he will throw some projectiles at you, so watch out for those. But the second part is definitely easier than the first part. So you really shouldn't have too much trouble with him. Pretty much any sub-weapon will work for you. I guess not the knife. The knife really isn't that effective against death, but every other sub-weapon will work. Or, I don't know if the stopwatch will work. It might work, I'm not entirely sure. Anyways, we're at level 9 now, and this is one of the hardest levels in the game. It's just, they throw everything they have at you in this level. And it also has one of the hardest bosses in the game, unless you decide to abuse one of two tricks, one of them being the holy water. The other one is sort of a pause trick. Now, I thought I showed it off in this playthrough, but apparently I don't. I looked at the footage, and basically, with the next boss we are going to, it's a doppelganger. It's a clone of you, and if you switch characters, the boss will also switch characters. However, if you switch characters, you have a very short period of time where you can move, but the boss cannot. So there, you can use Trevor to hit the boss once with the whip and then transform again. And if you use this, the boss will not be able to move, and you will defeat it without taking damage every time. But if you don't use the holy water or or that pause trick, you are going to have a lot of trouble with the boss. It's just, it has everything you have. It has all of your sub-weapons, and if you're using, like Sypha or something, it has all of her sub-weapons, and it's just a very difficult boss. And we'll be seeing it in a second. Although I kind of abuse the holy water like normal, because that's what I do with these playthroughs, you know? I gotta give myself a chance to beat this game without dying 15 times, and the holy water is just, I'm gonna abuse it. I'm sorry, I don't care. I'm going to abuse it. If it's there for me, I'm going to abuse it. It's just simple as that. And besides, you need it. I mean, I'm not an expert at this game, so I can't just beat this game with just the whip. I'm not an expert at this game. I mean, I'm pretty good at it. I've been playing it for a while, so I know the game inside and out, but, you know, I haven't mastered the game. I'm not a master at the game yet. I'm not prepared to go through this game without dying once, you know. I can't do that. I don't think I will ever be able to do that, to be honest. This game is just so hard. There's just so many chances for you to die. I mean, it's definitely beatable, but going through this game without dying is very difficult, and I don't know anybody that can do it. I don't think anybody can do it. Maybe one or two people, but I certainly cannot. And level 9, it brings back all of the most painful gimmicks of the game. We have the screen, the shifting screen right here. In the last area, we had the annoying stairs with these skull towers that shot at you. And it's just, it's a hard level. They throw everything they have at you. It's definitely, I don't want to say it's the hardest level, but it's definitely up there. Earlier, we also saw the return of the hunchbacks and the things that carry them. I think they're just called eagles. We saw the return of those from the 4th level of Castlevania 1. This level is also one of the longest levels in the game, and that really, it only adds to the difficulty. It doesn't make the level any easier, of course. It only makes it harder. And with some of these later levels, part of their difficulty is their length. It's really just some sort of endurance round. You have to go through obstacle after obstacle, defeat enemy after enemy, and it's sort of like an endurance round. Now here is one of the prime examples. This room, you have to dodge all of these eagles while worrying about all the water, because you don't want to fall off the edge with the waterfall. And then you gotta watch out for the mermen who are in the water, and it's really, you gotta really pay attention, and if you don't, you're gonna get hit, and then you're gonna take another hit, and then you're just gonna die, and then you're gonna lose your best sub-weapon. And out of 6 playthroughs, this was my best run. By far. The other 5 runs were disastrous. I died so many times. You know, this run right here, I don't want to say it was like a miracle, but this is probably one of my best runs ever at this level. It's just, there's just so much going against you, and luckily I survived with the holy water intact, which makes the boss that much easier. You just throw the holy water, and here I have the triple shot, so I can throw 3 holy waters at a time. So basically, the boss has absolutely no chance of ever moving, and without the holy water or the pause trick, you are going to have a lot of trouble with that boss. Anyways, I will see you in the final part of the playthrough.